Started. Thank you all for coming, and we're delighted that you're all here to talk a little bit about the community grants for the Divided City. My name is Bruce Lindsay, and I'm a professor in the College and Graduate School of Architecture and Urban Design in the Sam Fox School at Washington University in St. Louis. And I'm one of the PIs for the Divided City, but I'm joined by some wonderful colleagues here today, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, thanks, Bruce. Hi, I'm Laura Perry. I'm the Assistant Director for Research and Public Engagement at the Center for the Humanities at WashU in St. Louis. And as of July, I'm also the Program Coordinator for the Divided City.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gisela Medina, and I am a grad student assistant for the Divided City.
We've got a short presentation just with a little bit of information about the Divided City that we'd like to start off with. Laura's going to share the screen.
Yes, I am.
Some of you that are familiar with the initiative know that it started in 2014 on the heels of the murder of Michael Brown, and just in some ways reflecting on that anniversary that is coming up. But some of you also were probably familiar with Jean Allman with the Center for Humanities and a professor in African and African American Studies, and Tila Nuguse, our program coordinator, who is now with CREE 2 at Washington University. And they will be joining us in spirit, but Laura and Gisela are helping us in the final year of the Divided Cities work. Initially, we had funds from the Mellon Foundation for 8 years worth of initiatives and grants and community events and programming. And due to many complications, some of which I'm sure you can understand, that we had some funding to be able to continue the initiative for an additional year. And so this, our 9th year, will be the final year of the Divided City. But we're so excited to be able to offer again, for the 3rd time, a round of funding for community grants, which started 2 years ago, in part sparked by the current events that were going on. We felt that it was an opportunity that we could be able to reach out to organizations that didn't necessarily have a connection specifically with Washington University, but were doing great work and are doing great work across the city of St. Louis. So here you can see that the Divided City is a partnership between the Center for Humanities and the Sam Fox School, but more particularly the College and Graduate School of Architecture, Urban Design, and Landscape Architecture. And the subject of the work has been framed by the issues of urban segregation, broadly understood literally around the world, but also in the ways that we kind of got started right here in St. Louis, addressing issues specific to the St. Louis metropolitan region. So next slide, please. We have a really short video that will give you a little background, so we'll bear your indulgence. It's not very long, but it'll give you a little bit of an introduction for those of you that are not as familiar with the Divided City.
I'm just going to stop sharing and start again, so that I'm sharing my sound this time, because it does have soundtrack.
At the end of 2012, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation quietly launched an initiative to bring the humanities in dialogue with urban design around issues facing cities
both in the United States and around the world. About a year later, they invited Washington University to submit a proposal.
The tricky part was that the humanities and architecture and urban design weren't in particularly productive dialogue, with one exception, and that was a city seminar that had been running for about 7 or 8 years.
It was started by Maggie Garb, a professor of history, and Eric Mumford, a professor of urban design. We invited them to join us to write the proposal and also bring together the other faculty that were working around issues related to urban segregation.
We developed a project that was both local, focused on St. Louis, and global, that would look to the world. St. Louis was a great place to initiate the local of this project. It's a colonial city, the dividing line between North and South, East and West, the gateway to imperial expansion, but also the boundary between slavery and freedom. It's also the site of numerous court cases that have to do with race and segregation. So it seemed to us a perfect place from which to launch the divided city.
During the development of the proposal, I think the idea was always there that St. Louis is this particularly resonant place from which to ask questions about urban segregation. But I don't think anyone expected that just 2 months after we were funded, that our city would erupt in the way that it did. We were funded in June 2014, and then in August 2014, Michael Brown, an unarmed African-American teenager, was shot dead by police officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri, just a few miles north of WashU's campus. Michael Brown's body laid in the street for over 4 hours on Canfield Drive. The protest and the militarized police response over the next year catapulted our city to the forefront of national and international news, and it brought a much-needed sense of urgency to our new Divided City initiative and a razor-sharp focus to our city. Over the past 5 years, Ferguson and all it has come to symbolize has profoundly shaped the work, goals, and energy of the Divided City initiative, and I think it will continue to do so in the coming years as we continue our work. The Divided City is a multifaceted project that at its core is built upon community and institutional partnerships, faculty collaboration, and interdisciplinary graduate student cohorts. Much of the cooperation we've been able to facilitate between architecture and urban design and the humanities, and between Washington University and community institutions, has really been through our faculty collaborative grants. We have funded over 24 faculty collaborative grant projects, from community engagement grants.
People here voted to be taxed a little bit more to get a Metrolink line running from the south to the north, from the north to the south, via Jefferson. So
I believe that'll be a good improvement and it'll generate money.
To projects focused on interdisciplinary course development.
This is a class that for the first time is going to bring together students in sociology and, of course, urban design at the Sam Fox School.
There aren't that many programs that bring together this kind of constellation of interests. You don't see sociologists and urban design people working together explicitly in student-centered programs.
We've even created digital archives.
Our project contributes by centering LGBTQ experiences in a divided St. Louis to document the history of people with sexual and gender nonconformity has often meant that their experiences have gone unrecorded, unarchived, unheard, and unremarked.
Our faculty collaborative grants have brought
Thanks, Laura. And that gives you a little bit of a background on some of the things that the Divided City has done. But as I mentioned before, we're here today to talk about the community grants, which was begun literally 3 years ago. And this will be the third and final opportunity that we will have to work with organizations that are doing work in the city. And hopefully you've seen the call for proposals. The grants will be in the range of between $5,000 and $20,000 to individuals and organizations, and there's no need to have any specific affiliation with Washington University. And today, really, we're here to answer your questions, but also so delighted to see so many of you here. In the previous ones of these that we've done, something that often happens at the end, and we will keep this at an hour or less so you can plan your time. But at the end, we like to hear some of the things you are thinking about and some of the things that you're doing. And I'll have to say that from previous experience, it's incredibly inspiring to hear the things that are going on every day here in St. Louis. So as I mentioned, the grants are in the range of $5,000 to $20,000. The proposal is pretty straightforward, and you can find it on our website. There are two broad categories for grants to frame the work of the individual or the organization around either creative practice in the divided city or design and the divided city. And while we will ask you to choose one of these categories, we interpret these very broadly. And so I'm sure there will be some questions about that we would be happy to answer.
And just to add that we do have a third category on the application that's called something like community and the divided city, for those of you who feel like your project is not contained in these two, even as they are very broad categories. But we're especially encouraging work in the following areas of creative practice and design.
Thanks, Laura. As I mentioned, application process is pretty straightforward. You'll find it online, and the proposals will be due September 7th. The proposal will be made online through the Divided City website. The review process will happen shortly after, and we'll have a small group of reviewers for the grant applications. We're excited and looking forward to those. But there is something that I need to emphasize, that this being the last year of the Divided Cities work, all of the expenditures for the grants that we will offer in the fall need to be realized by June of 2023. We literally have to close the books on the Divided City. We're working hard on how the efforts that many of you and our faculty and our students and graduate cohort have been moving forward with, and that hopefully will happen both through CRE 2, but also through other initiatives in the university, particularly building on the recent strategic planning process that the university has been going through. So while this will be the last year of our funding, we hope it's just the first year of a new set of initiatives around this kind of work. Laura, Gisela, anything else that we should mention before we jump right into questions?
Well, we can talk a bit about what's on the application, which is also available to view online, but also just to emphasize, in addition to what you just said, Bruce, about how all expenditures must be allocated by June, is that funds are also for project-focused grants. And this is something that we've already been getting questions on, and we're happy to clarify in the Q&A, but they can't go towards direct service or general operating expenses of an organization. And we're happy to talk more about that if there are any questions about that in the Q&A. But so just to share a bit about the application, it's very simple, we hope. And it's also asked for very short responses. So a brief written responses about your project, the planned outcomes, how that project and your goal aligns with the Divided City Initiative, your timeline, your budget, and then any supplemental materials you'd like to upload. And one thing to note is that any letters of support or letters of recommendation or from your collaborators, they're welcome, but they're not required, because we know this is a short turnaround, and we didn't want to burden potential applicants by having them ask for letters of recommendation, but you are absolutely welcome and encouraged to upload them, particularly if this is a project with multiple collaborators, to demonstrate that the collaborators are aware and excited about the project. So you can view the entire application online at our website. It's not one of those where you have to click through multiple pages first. You can scroll through and see all of the word limits and questions that we're asking there. And we're also happy to take questions about any of those in the Q&A.
Thank you. So with that, we would be happy to open things up to questions.
And you're welcome to unmute yourself and speak it out, but you're also welcome to type it in the chat. So Robert Green, I think I saw you unmuting yourself. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, my name is Robert Green, and I'm the head of several different organizations. The most specific one is the St. Louis African American Artifact Festival Bazaar, which produced several events over the years and several over this year in particular. And so it's a, you know, what we're trying to do is create a mosaic of organizations that will advance the cause of the economic disparity in North St. Louis. And so that mosaic of organization I have brought together on several different occasions and producing artistic events that put the people before the art instead of the art before the people. And so we'll be pursuing some capital to further what we do and creating events. And you know, I had a question about the June 23rd deadline for as spending. Is that actually spending the money, or because right now we're planning for 23, our events that we're planning for 23, and so 23 goes from it starts with a big kickoff Juneteenth celebration at Fairground Park, which we did this year. We had one, and it was the biggest, the most enlightened celebration of Juneteenth in the history of St. Louis. So we plan on celebrating that to be the first kickoff, but then it go all the way every month. Every month we do a festival under the umbrella of St. Louis African American Artifact Festival Bazaar that bring about different organizations. And so every month we have an event that will go all the way up until October and of the year. And so we're looking for funding to help us, you know, make sure those events go over very successfully and that they are fiscally solvent. And so that's what we'll be going after. And so I would like to know, for the June 23 deadline, does that mean you have to spend the money by the 23rd if you're lucky enough to get the grant, or do it? Yeah, you have to have it budgeted out over the year. I mean, I'm kind of, you know, need some clarity on that.
Laura, yes, we can. Thank you. Laura, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Just say thank you for describing the work that you're doing. And it sounds like exactly the kind of work that we hope that the community grant will support. And I'm excited also to hear about other people's projects in the Zoom room. So the June, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that funds need to be spent by that June 23 deadline. And you know, so it's possible that depending on your 2023 plans, there could be things that you could pre-plan to do, or efforts that are supporting the efforts in the second half of the year. But yes, you know, and this is not a deadline that we on this team have created. This is a deadline because of the fiscal year setup of our grant foundation, that the Mellon Foundation. So it is a hard and fast one, even as we know it's will probably be an awkward one. But yes, that's why Bruce emphasized it in our description.
When do the fiscal year start? I mean, because we're doing things that start we're doing another event in October. You know, we're doing an event coming up on August the 20th, which is our signature event, and you guys supported us before on that, and I appreciate that. But we're also doing a couple other events that we're talking about, this mosaic of organizations, and so we need help with that. And that's this year. So I don't know when your fiscal year starts as far as this grant is concerned, but we got things that just go out through the year and then into 23. So we're not finished doing what we do, you know, for as creating what we do, our artistic events.
Yeah, that's a great question of when could projects start, and I would say, you know, given that the deadline's in early September, probably a start before October wouldn't make sense. But yes, once we work through some orientation and getting some of the accounts set up, I would think that projects starting in October would be feasible. Does that sound right to you, Bruce?
Yes, and Robert, the fiscal year for the divided city ends on the last day of June. And so thinking about the Juneteenth celebration, there might be some, opportunities there, but last day of June, essentially the university's accounting system gets rid of the divided city accounts. So
Okay. Yeah. So the October, if we're lucky enough to receive the grant, the October event that we have planned, and this is a big one. This is in Fairground Park, and it includes bringing in a lot of different individual organizations, and to provide a marketplace for people to come out and connect with each other and sell their wares and what we're proposing. All the events we've done so far, and we've done a multitude this year so far. We have charged the vendors, but we're trying to do something where we can create a marketplace in an area that's been barred of a marketplace for a whole lot of years, and not charge the vendors anything to come out. So we need some assistance in being able to secure the park, secure the insurance, secure all the expenditures that we normally hustle around and get. If we can solidify that type of grant and help, then we can do a wonderful thing in October. And that's what I've been kicking around in my head. And I've met with a lot of other organizations. We did something in 2019 similar, and I'm trying to bring those organizations back together. But then if not, then the organization that I head, we're planning to do a retro effort in the park, which occurred in the 70s, where people just came to the park in huge numbers. And so I want to be able to afford the opportunity for the vendors to come to the event and not able to and won't have to pay anything, but where we need to support is to pay for the stage, to pay for the porta potties, to pay for the entertainment, to and to maybe bring in a significant speaker, etc. And so what I'm trying to do is, with all these things that I do throughout the year, is not just have a party and just celebrate history and art, but I'm trying to start a movement where we will continue this movement year after year after year, and it becomes self-regenerative. And so that's what this is all about. And so just this year we had about 4 or 5 events every month, and it's just, I want to keep the continuing going. And I think once we keep the continuing going, it becomes self-regenerative, and then it causes maybe a paradigm shift in economic and social dynamics of the north side. And in doing that would help the whole city, I think.
Robert, we will review the proposals a few days after September 7th, and hopefully we'll have the word out about the awards within the next week of September, and we will move as quickly as we can. But your points bring up another important part, which is the understanding of the budget in a detailed way if your event or support is a part of a larger initiative. And we certainly welcome those, but how you describe that in the budget could allow for you to be also specific about your request, but then how it relates to other funding and the timeframes of your event.
The events that we've done, and we've done numerous this year, fall under the umbrella of the St. Louis African American Artifact Festival Bazaar, and that's the organization that I head and have been heading for the past 8 years. So so I bring in other organizations, and quite frankly, other organizations have been involved throughout everything that I do. So we just bring those organizations. But the most significant thing that I want to do in October is to like the end of the seasons of festivals in the city of St. Louis from African American diaspora point of view, and let the vendors, because the vendors pay for everything else throughout the year that I do for vendor spots. So if we can end it and say, hey, thank you for being a part of what we do all year round. You don't have to pay. Come, enjoy, and let's connect. And then the June event that we do in June in the Fairground Park, that's the kickoff for the year. So it's a continuum of just cooperative economics and talking about social and economic parity and equality, and just the whole just continue to build that, and that will become self-regenerative. And I think that would be beneficial for not just North St. Louis, but the whole St. Louis city in particular.
Yeah.
So
we had a question from Justin. Justin, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I did. And hello, everybody. I'm sorry. I want to know, I would like to know, you talk about, I'm thinking about the funding and what matters or what categories of things can this funding be used for? Because if I'm understanding it right, we could get help from, professors, students. And if I'm understanding that right, if we're getting a lot of great work for those people, how would we use this resources as well? Would it be for like materials? I'm just really trying to think it through, and how could we itemize when we create the budget for what we're proposing? How and what categories can this funding be put towards? And I understand I'm not, as you all explain it, for this project-based funding opportunity.
Right. Well, the broad categories for the grant support in creative practice and design in the divided city are, as Laura also mentioned, very broad. And in the past, typically the organizations have come forward with particular projects that come from either organizations or individuals that range from individual art initiatives to community events, as we've just heard with Robert, and other kinds of educational programs that include support for educational supplies or the invited guests that might come in and participate. So the range is as broad as the projects are in terms of what the grant can support. One of the things that we're happy to do is, as you begin to formulate an idea, if you're just starting to come up with it, run it by us. Send us an email and let us know, and we'd be happy to give you feedback. The reviewers will be looking for broad impact and not just funds that support an ongoing organization's daily activities. So we really look for things that you wouldn't have been able to do without this support, if that helps.
Hey, Bruce, it sounds like you're talking about, I'm gonna make a word up like Al Sharpton and like to do, scalability. I don't know if that's a real word, and sustainable.
Yeah, that's right.
I hear what you just shared versus a temporary cute and cuddly.
Yeah, but we also realize that you have to kind of get started with this, and so for some people and some organizations, it might be their first opportunity to think about doing something. So we welcome that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cynthia had a question about profit, not for profit. Cynthia, do you want to give us a little detail on that? Is Cynthia here?
It's
yes, good morning.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. I just had a general question. It was whether or not a for-profit initiative would be eligible. And the project is more so around community. It is community development related, and it's targeting some of the lending needs in terms of businesses and consumers not being eligible for traditional banking. And so it's more of an answer to a problem, if I can maybe characterize it as that.
Yeah. Well, Cynthia, your description intrigues me. There's nothing prohibiting a for-profit organization to apply for a grant. It would be up to the reviewers' understanding of the details of the project and its potential impact. So there, I think the devil's in the details, really, about how it would support the community and those that are participating, and how it could also further your own organization. So there, I would perhaps suggest that if you have other more specific details, that you could reach out to Laura and I, and we could we would be happy to give you any kind of feedback that we can. Laura, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I would just add that depending on the nature of the organization, that direct service also is not covered by these grants. So we would have to clarify. I believe that's a funding restriction that comes not necessarily from us, but from other reasons relating to the foundation. So we might have to check with some other grants managers in terms of that. But yes, like as Bruce said, please feel free to reach out to us and we can chase down the answers to your specific questions and get a better, more specific sense of how the project might align with the divided city.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. I'm also a student over at Olin, so I'll be happy to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lydia.
Hi, my name is Lydia. I'm a local artist here in St. Louis. And so I just had a question about, I understand that there's like that funding deadline of the end of June, but I would be looking at like proposal, looking at doing for kind of like a show that we're working with a couple different other members on. I have a project where we use watercolor to do portraits to kind of explore like stereotypes related to gun violence in St. Louis and how like examining why it affects certain areas rather than others. And kind of the goal is to like basically honor the people who are resilient and the advocates and the activists here in St. Louis, but then also provide a vehicle to, how St. Louis is so siloed that it's very easy to, if you live in other areas, to not expose yourself to anything that's going on. So it's kind of also a vehicle in order to just raise awareness. Actually, I don't know if it's last year or the year before, I met Ben Schulle actually in one of these Divided City information sessions. And so we've been working together since that. And so we're working together as he's like working on filming around that as well. So we've been interviewing different mothers that have lost children to gun violence, or, we, interviewed Dr. LJ Punch of the Brick, and I did a portrait. And so what we're looking at for funding, since we've already, produce content, and I have several portraits that are completed, we're wanting to apply for a grant for everything that would be needed to do like a show or a collaborative show. The idea is that something that it could be like, either in a gallery or even at different, institutions in St. Louis, not just art institutions, but that raising awareness, thoughts of doing kind of installation piece as well, with different, actually different items that when we've been interviewing different people that they've had that kind of like really kind of are like that visual physical thing that can represent what we're trying to get across. So and like also like I'm a trauma nurse by training, and so the thought is something, if this is something we could even take to trauma conferences and raise awareness with that as well. So I guess some of what I want to know is that if we're, yes, if the funding is allocated and spent, do we have to have had the event by June 23rd, or if a show is scheduled for like later in that year, would that still qualify?
Laura, chime in if you understand this differently. But Lydia, first of all, nice to see you again. And you remind me of over the years, the way in which sessions like this have actually put partners together. We're also happy to do that with any of you that might be looking for a partner, and we would be happy to use our network to connect you with people. So please consider that as well. But I don't think that the money has to be spent, but the event could be later, would be my understanding of that.
Yes, I mean, that does get tricky because there are some things that you can only spend money on once they're actually happening, like catering and things like that. So I think for everyone's headaches sakes, it would be much easier if the event was prior to the deadline. But I'm sure there are creative ways around it and ways to support all of the materials that may be necessary for setting up an installation, or visiting speakers honorariums, or travel expenses, things like that, where there's a lot of expenses that lead up to an installation or an event before the day of. But like as we've been emphasizing, ideally everything would happen before June 23, just because that is a hard deadline that is not of our own making.
Sorry, we're not able to be as specific as we might otherwise be with some of these questions, but we've never done the last year before, so we're trying to figure it out too. So,
Jackie, did you have a question?
I do. There's a project that St. Louis Artworks would definitely like to apply for, but I can also see St. Louis Artworks partnering with another organization for a project that they're interested in. Would you suggest that we are, as opposed to technically being a part of two proposals, select one over the other?
that's a great question. And now I'm kind of putting my reviewer's hat on as if I was looking at project proposals. I think collaborations are always important. And so my first thought would be any collaboration that could happen between two organizations that was able to happen because of the grant proposal would be nothing but a great thing. So that's my first response. Did I?
Well, that's technically not a no, however, because they're two totally separate projects. We would definitely partner with another organization if they wanted to submit the proposal, because we're interested in participating in that. But two totally separate projects.
I may have misunderstood your question. I thought you were talking about whether or not you should collaborate with another organization or do two individual submissions.
Mm-hmm.
We have entertained more than one submission from an organization, so that's not out of the question. Is that right, Laura?
Yes, I would say there's no reason why people couldn't be involved in multiple submissions, and that given the scope of some of the organizations and the people in the work that I see in the Zoom room, that exactly as you said, like there are a lot of different kinds of collaborations and projects that could apply. I imagine, putting my reviewer hat on now, that the reviewers would be interested in spreading the funding around as opposed to concentrating it with one organization multiple times. So I think, but I think it would all depend on the kinds of projects described, and how much of a good fit they were with the goals of the Divided City.
JH, did you want to ask your question? Or I can read it.
Is that for Joe Holt?
About the 10th anniversary trivia night?
Yeah, so we have a 10th anniversary trivia night. It will be either in April, May of next year. And it's our biggest fundraiser, but it's also a chance for us to bring together a bunch of organizations. We usually do comp tables for law students at WashU, at SLU, and a couple of community tables. Wanted to know if that's something that we could use the funds for.
Joe, are you talking about using the funds to purchase the tables for the Arch City Defenders, or helping?
No, to hold the actual event, because we don't do a lot of just one-off projects. but that is something that we do pretty regularly that we sort of struggle to have funding for at Arch City.
Well, events are definitely things that we would welcome in terms of a proposal. So
great, thank you.
Let's see.
And Alex in the chat asked if there will be another info session for the faculty collaborative grants, and there will not. We do not have one planned right now, but again, we welcome you to reach out to us with specific questions and we will reply to them promptly. And you can send it to that email that Hazela dropped in the chat earlier.
Other questions? What Alex is referring to is that in addition to the community grants, we are continuing for a final year the faculty grants that are geared towards faculty at WashU. Other questions? Lador.
Oh, sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm Robert Green. I was just in my car before. Now I'm at home.
Oh, Robert.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in my car before, but now I'm at home.
Who's Lador?
Yeah, that's my mother's name.
Oh, nice.
I have to figure out how to change that. You know, I just have to figure out how to change that. But yeah, I still have a kind of need some clarity on the 23 deadline. Now, what if we have the money allocated before the deadline? You know.
So we would not be able to reimburse you after June 2023. So because the way that these grants usually work is via reimbursement, even if the money is allocated, if it's not spent yet, then we wouldn't be able to reimburse you. So ideally, all expenditures would take place before June 2023. And, you know, I think we would have to have a longer conversation about the alternatives to that, but we really hope that instead of doing that, applicants can imagine projects and proposals that can take place before June 2023, even as they're supporting work that's going to continue on after that, that they can imagine a scope of work that would end by June 2023.
Yeah, I'm working on, like I said, I'm working on a multitude of projects with a multitude of organizations, and I get presented with a different event, you know, probably weekly. And so, yeah, and they're into this year. So definitely there's a mosaic of people that want to do things, but just don't have the funding to do it. And they coming to me, you know, literally coming to me because I do so many things that, and I can't turn them away. But my funds are only limited to a certain amount, and then the work that I do, getting out in the field and getting people together, I can only do so much. So certainly, I mean, the organization that I had, and with the connections I have throughout St. Louis City, in general, we can have events every month of the year that would tie into still what we're doing. So as we talk, we can create. You know, we got people that's very creative. And we can create events to meet that 23rd deadline in the budget. So we can do that, and we can present that, certainly.
Yeah, great. Dion asks, will the recording be sent out? Thanks for asking that, Dion. I should have mentioned that we were recording this, but we anticipate that there'll be people that weren't able to come to the info session today. So we're happy to share the recording of today's discussion.
Yes, and it will be available on our website at that link there shortly. Not immediately, but shortly.
Sarah asks, can you describe what the reporting will look like after the grant. Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and so this is something that we will go over with each project that has been selected. We'll meet with you at the start of your grant period and discuss both kind of practical nuts and bolts about what kind of expenditures and documentation will work, and also our check-in schedule. But we will ask for regular, monthly-ish updates from the project teams. And this is both to keep us in the loop about what's going on, but also so we can help publicize events, help troubleshoot anything that's coming up, connect you with collaborators, and just, share your enthusiasm and our enthusiasm for the work that you're doing. So rather than kind of a formal report at the end of the grant period, we will be checking in with you throughout and asking for updates and trying to keep each other in the loop about the great work that we're doing. And we're also potentially planning an event in the spring where community grant recipients from this year and years prior can get together and talk with one another, because there is so much great work that's already been done by individuals and organizations who've had these community grants, and we just look forward to continuing to connect people and support people because of them.
The website's also been a great resource, so we would be delighted that any materials that you might produce for the grant be available so that we can share it on the website. And hopefully all of you have noticed that there are examples of previous community grant supporters or projects that have been supported, so you can get a sense of what happened before. Any other questions?
Yep, jump in, Jackie.
I have a quick question. I was just looking at the application and looking at the categories. Noticed that there was no category of self-honorarium, but nothing for salary. Now, I'm not talking about salaries for the staff, but we do pay our apprentices and we define that as salary. Would that be considered general op, or would that be a category that we could implement?
So apprentices, so they would be hired for specific projects. Yeah, and so that I think would fall under stipend from our understanding of it. So it may just be a matter of terminology, because if you're bringing someone on and paying them to support or to work on a particular project, I think we would probably call that a stipend. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thanks.
Other questions may come up over the next few minutes. We do want to try to keep to an hour, but I would like to open it up to hear from those of you that might be interested in mentioning just some of the things that you're thinking about.
And feel free to drop links in the chat to any of your websites if there's people in the room that you may connect with because of that. So we would definitely welcome you to share links to what you're bringing to the Zoom room in the chat.
So, hi, I'm Erica with the Griot Museum of Black History. We've been thinking about a couple of things, but one that comes to mind most immediately is in conjunction with our Black Her Story initiative, and possibly doing a coloring book of some of those women who are, particularly those women who are in the inaugural class, maybe. A coloring book, a board game, something around play that is also informs education and celebrating those women. So we will be looking at hiring artists to create the images and writers for the content, and just wondering what your thoughts on those possibilities are.
Erica, that sounds like an amazing project. Let me first say, though, that for 8 years, the GRIO has been one of the most important partners to the Divided City from its very beginning. Lois is on our board of advisors, and so I wanted to mention how important your support and partnership has been for us, and also what an amazing job you guys do. So thank you for that. But the coloring book sounds amazing.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you all too.
Especially the idea of engaging artists to help produce it and having an event out of the production of the book. That would be an incredible part of the story of the coloring book. That's such a cool idea.
Yeah, coloring, especially for adults, has come into become very popular. So it's for kids, we were thinking, but adults clearly might enjoy it also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dion.
Hi, I am joined late. I just was reading my email. So if this is not applicable, I'm not sure, and I can't get on a computer. So is this grant, are health advocacy organizations eligible for this grant?
I couldn't quite hear what you said, Dion. Could you say it again, please?
I said, I'm not able to get on a computer, so I'm not sure if health advocacy groups are able to be a recipient of this grant. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Rare and Black, where we amplify the voices and experiences of Black people living with rare disease. And in St. Louis, we're in the process of doing research and community awareness of newborn screenings with specifically Black children, but anyone in this region, because there's a need for it. So I wasn't sure if this was like more of a humanities arts project or.
That's an excellent question. The Mellon funding for the Divided City does have an emphasis on urban humanities, but we take that very broadly. And let me answer the first part of your question, which is your organization would be more than welcome to submit a proposal. The project that you described to me couldn't be more urban in its implications. So that's my first thought about what you were describing. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, Bruce, I think this predates my time at the Divided City, but one of the inspirations for these community grants was the COVID-19 pandemic and the unequal impact and the real need of communities and individuals and organizations in St. Louis during this time. So I think, you know, public health and efforts to support it are one of the reasons why this community grant was created and the thought process behind it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And thank you to those sharing in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would just like to additionally add that, you know, a lot of, you know, I go all over the city. I crisscross the city, not just doing events, but participating in other folks' events. And the events that I've seen since this year, 21, and before the pandemic hit, the most significant thing that I've seen, and I'm always talking pretty much because of the disparity, economic, socially, and economically, and educationally in the African-American diaspora in the city of St. Louis, always addresses that issue. We're talking about doing things, because that's where the biggest impact is. And so I see we're on the cusp of probably bringing about some a paradigm shift, and where we can create that that parity in economics, but we just need a little shove. And that shove come in the forms of, like I said, bringing this mosaic of organizations together, like we've done and like we've done this year, and having that money turn over within the community. over and over again. So the events that I've experienced across the St. Louis City region has been very awe-inspiring to me. But what I'm trying to do with what I'm presenting now is to create a continuum of that. And so instead of having, like the Black Wall Street Festival happened in June, and then you have this happening in July, and I'm trying to keep something going every month. And that's very taxing for me as an individual, and it's also taxing for me economically, because I'm supporting a lot of what I do out of my pocket, and along with the vendors that comes to our event. So actually, I like to say that the event is the people's event. But with the institutional support, we can make this thing just huge and so amazing that it will be felt and it reverberate throughout the city of St. Louis, the nation, perhaps the world. St. Louis City could be the paradigm that the rest of the United States is looking for in reference to turning around the inner cities and what's happening in inner cities. And so I think we're on the cusp of something great happening. The young vendors that I experienced, there's a multitude of them. They just need a place to sell their wares, and I create that environment, and I'm continuing to create that environment. And so, with any kind of support or any kind of organization that's trying to get this grant, I think, and it's just my personal opinion, I think first and foremost, coming from African American perspective, I think we need to look at the social, economic, and educational impact that this is going to have. And whether once you invest this money, is it just a one-time and you're done, or is it a regenerative situation? And I believe what I do is regenerative, and I don't look at it as a project. I look at it as an art form. Oftentimes, people put art before the community, art before the people, instead of people before the art. And what I do, I put people before the art, and bring them together, create this mosaic, vibrant groups of organizations, individuals to create amazing events throughout the city of St. Louis. And I just, I think that's really socially, economically, and educationally is what we need to do to try to turn this whole thing around. So I'm talking to a whole lot of institutions for help and getting the money where we can do events, let the vendors, that's a multitude of them, come free, create this huge marketplace throughout different locations throughout the city of St. Louis. And I think you'll see a change. I think you'll see a change. I have already seen that change. And so I think as we expand and grow and continue with this mission, I think more people see this change. And as we did so many things that the media is picking us up, the TV, the radio stations calling me on. So I think it's very important that wherever these dollars end up, it have to benefit in a huge way, socially, economically, and educationally, whoever we're addressing. And so that's my opinion. I think it's a.
Well, Robert, I remember sitting down in your living room and talking to you for the first time and being inspired about the work that you've been doing. And so thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. And it's continue.
Yep. Cities, I don't know if it's City or City S, but Cities talking about the quilt project. That's a wonderful idea. You're right. Quilting has an amazing cultural heritage. I was in Alabama for 6 years and got to know the work of the G-Spen quilters, and it couldn't be more inspiring as an idea. So, we do want to wrap things up. Any last words from anyone about their project? Or again, please feel free to reach out.
Yes, please do reach out. We no question too small or too big. We are really eager to hear about your work and to connect people with each other. And again, thank you for coming out today, and please share the word of these opportunities with people who might be interested as well and who were not able to make it today.
Well, and I'd like to add one more word, and that word is thanks and gratitude for you guys persevering and do what you do, because I follow the some of the programs that you supported, and they've been marvelous, particularly most significant, the grill, because it's right down the street for me. But I have followed others, so I think they've been right on point, and just continue up that, and I think we're getting there. There's a lot of work to be done in St. Louis, but as long as we got individuals at the helm of these organizations that understand the plight of the community and the plight of St. Louis in particular, I think we're heading in the safe direction. And I appreciate and thank you guys for that.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you. Thank you.